I'm so excited to have my friend Estela Mata on the Arthritis Life podcast today. Can you let the audience know real quick just where you live and what is your relationship to arthritis and autoimmune disease?
Wow. So my name is Estela Mata, and I am excited to be here. So thank you for having me, Cheryl. I live in Baldwin Park, California, and I'm really passionate about raising awareness, advocating, and supporting those that live with autoimmune diseases like lupus, RA, and overlapping conditions like fibromyalgia and mental health.
Yeah, I love your passion. And you're one of the few podcast guests I've been able to meet in real life at the rheumatology conferences, which is so fun to kind of get all these passionate people in a room together to share ideas. So we're going to talk about your organization, Looms for Lupus. But first, I would love to hear a little bit of your personal story and experience. What was your diagnosis process like? And yeah, I mean, it's often a saga, so that's okay. But yeah, how did you get diagnosed with RA?
Well, before I tell you how I got diagnosed with RA, I have to kind of start how I've been working in the healthcare industry for over 30 years. So, started off as a medical assistant at the age of 17. I was still in high school. So, I've always been interested and loved working with patients and with providers, physicians. So, that has been one of my go tos. That actually is what has helped me not only navigate, the whole journey of supporting my sister who almost lost her life to lupus, Juana, who you've also met. She was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis first in 2009, and a few months later, lupus and a few other conditions. So, learning about autoimmune diseases with her, and learning how to support her, learning how to empower others has been really, really essential for me and my diagnosis story. So, been living with pain since I was 15 that I can remember and didn't really quite know what was going on. But the one thing that we've learned with my sister was always, and during our support groups, is note all your symptoms, right? Not everyone's the same. There are no two people alike in autoimmune diseases. Note your symptoms, note what makes it better, note what makes it worse, and kind of see how it impacts your daily life and know how to describe your pains and your aches to the provider so they can fully understand where where the pains are coming from. If is it more muscle, is it more joint, etc. So in 2018 I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia. So that's where one of my first diagnoses was. So healthy, just living with pain all my life, headaches, etc. So diagnosed with fibromyalgia in 2018, and about 20% of the people that live with lupus or have autoimmune diseases could have fibromyalgia as well. And these autoimmune diseases like to bundle up. So my diagnosis with RA or rheumatoid arthritis was in December of last year. So 2024 was when I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. So being able to note all the symptoms, describing my pain and knowing what helped, what didn't help, helped me get that diagnosis. I will say one of the things that has been unique and why it's taken so long for me to get that diagnosis is because I'm what they call, is it zero negative? I think it's what they call.
Seronegative. Yeah, yeah.
No, and you don't hear that term that much. And so what that basically means is you don't show in a lot of your lab work, a lot of the inflammation factors. I don't have a positive ANA, etc. So it was a lot more difficult for me to get diagnosed. So I needed several rheumatologists, so many, many years, many lab work later, and a combination of, different specialists to be able to identify and come with a diagnosis of rheumatoid arthritis in December.
Yeah. And first of all, I applaud you for doing such a good job of, like you said, tracking your symptoms and writing down what does it feel like, not just pain, but where it is, because that's so crucial for the doctors to make that what they call like the differential diagnosis, right? I think it's such a great testament to you that you did such a good job tracking your symptoms and explaining them to your doctor. And most patients never learn how to do that. And we don't really have a lot of good words about pain usually, right? Unless you've lived with it for a while. People just think, oh, pain is pain, or it's just this simple rate it on a scale of 1 to 10. But there are different patterns and locations and sensations for like fibromyalgia type pain versus RA or rheumatoid arthritis. And so I didn't prepare you for this question, but I would be interested to hear, like, in your body. Sometimes people ask me in my support groups and my educational programs, how do I know what is my fibromyalgia pain versus what is my rheumatoid arthritis pain? How did you come to learn that? And what are some of the signs for you?
Well, it has been difficult, right, to identify. And sometimes, I get both and I'm flaring with both. So it has been one of those challenging things. But I will say, for me, if it's more like in my joints, so my hands, my joint areas, my wrists, my elbows, my knees, hips, and stuff like that, then I know it's the RA. So there's more pain and inflammation in the joint areas. When it's fibromyalgia, I get a lot of what I think, I don't know if I'm saying this right. Is it chondritis?
Oh, like
Inflammation?
I say costochondritis, like the
There you
inflammation in
go.
the chest area. Yeah, I
Yes.
get that
So
too sometimes.
I get a lot of pain when it's my fibromyalgia around my rib cage and in front of my chest and my back and just, a lot of headaches, a lot of, migraine. So that's how I can kind of identify one with the other.
Yeah, that's super helpful. And for those listening who might be new to the world of rheumatoid arthritis, typically the other differentiating pattern would be that rheumatoid arthritis tends to be the worst in the morning or after inactivity. So they call it morning stiffness that slowly gets better with movement, with gentle movement and throughout the day versus fibro. From what I've heard, I don't have personal experience with fibromyalgia to my knowledge, but there's always possible something's going on in my body I'm not aware of. But that with fibro, it's more of like a constant versus the RA. It might be more like I follow this pattern of it's worse in the morning, better as the day goes on, and it's worse in the distal joints like the fingers, toes, wrists versus those axial rib cage, pelvis, stuff like that. So that's a just for people listening who might not know. I think that's a helpful little teachable moment.
Yes, Cheryl, and I'm glad you said that because yes, the morning stiffness or the stiffness from sitting or being in one position for a while is where also very huge identifier that I missed in the morning, waking up or just getting up after sitting for a long time. Also, it takes a while for the motion for me to be able to start moving. That's another way to identify those symptoms.
Yeah, and I often describe the pain of rheumatoid arthritis, at least for me, as like pressure from the inside out. Like I feel like someone's squeezing my joint inside towards the outside versus like a handshake where they squeeze from the outside in. And I'm not sure if fibromyalgia feels this. You were saying yeah, it's more like you don't feel it radiating out from the inside of your joint, right?
Yeah. So, another thing that I always, when I explain my fibromyalgia pain is everything hurts. So my hair, the straps on my shirts or just anything that touches me. So this pain is felt like from the outside in. So I love that you described that, the arthritis from inside out. Fibromyalgia for me is a lot of the outside. So I even have explained it to the point where I'm like, I can't, like, I can feel the air, like the air, the sweater. It hurts me so much. So it's basically amplified sensation of the pain from the outside. So I can't even hold or have someone touch me when I'm having that fibromyalgia pain.
Yeah. Well, I'm so sorry. That does sound really, really challenging. And we're going to talk a little bit later about how you cope, but I wanted to first know, do you want to share any highlights or lowlights of your treatment journey?
That has been one of the most challenging parts of my journey, besides getting diagnosed. No one prepares you for the complexity of the treatments, the complexity of the side effects, and just the overwhelming feeling about your life changing from one day to the next. So I have to say for fibromyalgia, I don't take any, and there's no specific treatment that I take for fibromyalgia. So I do a lot of over the counter, I do a lot of cupping, acupuncture, etc. I don't take any treatment for fibromyalgia. So little did I know how overwhelming it was going to be with rheumatoid arthritis. It's a whole other ball game and set of treatment options out there. So it was overwhelming. It's still overwhelming. So learning about the medications, like I said, the side effects and the constant adjustments to these treatments. I went from taking no medications, so zero medications unless I had severe pain, for fibromyalgia, to taking almost 10 pills a day for rheumatoid arthritis.
Wow.
And it was, you have the steroids, the prednisones, you have a swerve. I don't like to mention too many like specific treatments.
That's
So
okay.
you have like the infusions, right? You have the pill form. You have all these side effects, and then now you need to take medication for over the counter for those side effects. And so it's constant adjustment. So it was very, very overwhelming. And then I was also trying to figure out my weight gain. So I've had a lot of weight gain. Some medications make you gain a lot of weight, make it a little more difficult to move, more difficult, and then you still have the pain. So adjusting to that as well. So I'm trying to lose weight, help that so I can move more, trying to navigate taking the treatments for my rheumatoid arthritis and gaining weight because of some of the treatments, losing my hair. I mean, just the fatigue, the brain fog. It's been really, really difficult journey to say the least. But the one thing that I can say is I've learned so much resilience. And earlier, when we're talking about resilience, yes, it's a good thing to be resilient, but it is like you get tired of trying to put that face of I've got it, I'm gonna be okay, and being positive. So it's been a struggle, but I have to say one thing is you can never learn enough. So read about those treatments, the side effects, learn about what happened during the clinical trials or the trials with those treatments, learn about what can help you ease those side effects, connect with others that are dealing or have been taking the treatments that you're about to take, and then learn about what you can do prior to these treatments. So I can highlight one of the things that I never knew was the infusions, right? I never thought that I was going to end up in an infusion chair. So I saw my sister go through it. You've learned about going to a facility, about, being infused for sometimes 1 hour, sometimes 4 to 5 hours, but you can never prepare. And so that for me was the most difficult, being there for 4 to 5 hours once a week. And I'm trying not to get emotional. It takes a toll on you. And when you have your family that you're taking care of, when you have your husband, you have a community that you want to be, strong for too and support. It's overwhelming. And then you're in an infusion chair, so helpless at times because you don't know what you're putting in your body and what the impact is going to be. Is it going to help you? How long is it going to take to help you and all of that? So it's been really a tough journey, I have to say, but nothing is given to me that I cannot handle. And I have to say, I've had a lot of support from my family, from my friends, people like you. And, I just keep thinking that things are going to get better and not lose hope.
Yeah, well, and just thank you for sharing your story. And I think I got really lucky initially that the first medicine I tried worked really well with no side effects. So I kind of built this positive association with the medication, but I know that that's not obviously not the experience everyone has. And I completely, know that people listening are going to resonate with what you said. It is a strange, for me, it was almost like an identity crisis, like sitting in that infusion chair the first time, because it was like but the medicine's working so I don't feel sick like the way that other people in this room are, like, because everyone else in the room, I don't know about yours, but mine, everyone else was like there for cancer medicine. So
Yes.
I'm waltzing in there with like my little swing dancing dress. And, they're like, who is this? Like, why is she here? Anyway, sorry.
No, I love that you share that, Cheryl, because that was one of the things I almost felt like sad that I had to share a space and I felt like I wasn't as sick as they were. And I don't know what that there's a term for this. And when I would walk in, you're right, everyone's sharing, some people share, their journeys. Oh, what's this number treatment for you? And they don't have hair and they're going there for cancer treatments. And you're there and you're like, sorry, I'm just here, for my infusion for my RA. And you almost feel sorry that you have like something easier to deal with.
Yeah. I think it's, yeah. And I think everyone's journey is just so relative too, because I've had people in the support groups who've said, even who've had both cancer and rheumatoid arthritis, and said, depending on the severity of your cancer, how early they find it, like one of them said, I hate to say it, but honestly, their rheumatoid arthritis was harder for them than their cancer too. So, but there's this impression societally, right, that because RA is not immediately life threatening, it does, if not controlled, have a, on average, 7-year reduction in lifespan. So it is taking years off of your life, but it's not as immediate, right, as cancer, where it's like you could die in the next, couple years. So it seems like this less serious thing. It's just, yeah, I think it's imposter syndrome. I don't know if it's,
Yeah, that's why I was looking for that term. And you're right, because a lot of people, also associate, cancer with like death and, oh, you have oh, I'm so sorry to hear this. But people with autoimmune diseases that have organ involvement, like with my sister with lupus, you know, you don't get that same thing. We don't get it with rheumatoid arthritis. And we can possibly have organ involvement, right? So it is one of those things where I don't know what is worse, to know that you're diagnosed with one or the other. I just know that I'm very empathetic to anyone that has to deal with any sort of autoimmune disease or cancer or chronic illness diagnosis that is life changing.
yeah. Yes, 100%. And if anyone listening is, maybe preparing themselves for their first, infusion appointment or their first injection or their first oral medication, one thing, or I'll share two quick pieces of advice that have helped me in the past and others. One was from Dr. Christine Stamatos, who I've had on the podcast. She's a nurse practitioner. You might have met her at one of the conferences. She's very energetic, really a great speaker. And she said, I tell my patients who are nervous about medication, think about it like a dating, not a marriage. Like that it's, you try it and it'll be out of your system. Like if it's very rare for, if it doesn't work and you have bad side effects, it can be out of your, it'll be out of your system. So you don't have to worry that it's like, it's extremely rare, but it does happen. So we have to be aware of the possibility, but it's very, very rare that a medication for RA would have some sort of horrendous lifelong complication for you. So that's what I think of, the odds are in your favor for the medication, either the medication working and not, just statistically, the medication tends to work. But it may work with the side effects being so bad you don't want to continue, in which case there are numerous other ones to try. So that's a way that I say to comfort myself when I'm on my fifth different kind of treatment combo in 22 years. And so each time I'm kind of like go through that same cycle of being nervous, but I'm like, okay, but if this one doesn't work, I will survive. I've survived 100%, the worst days.
And I tried several too. So it's also, I think, very good to know that there are options. So you have options. If one doesn't work, you can, speak to your provider and the rheumatologist and look for other things that can help you, or other treatments. So know that there's always, options out there.
Yes, 100%. And, one of the things I wanted to also have you share today, your experience is rare because you were in the autoimmune world before you got your diagnosis because of your sister. And I think what you've done with you and your sister and your community with Looms for Lupus has been so Wonderful. Can you just share? I actually don't know, or maybe I knew and forgot. So sorry if you already told me in the past. The origin story for Looms for Lupus. By the way, I will put links to Looms for Lupus in the chat. What is it? How did it get started? Your superhero origin story.
Well, thank you. So, Looms for Lupus is a nonprofit organization that my sisters and I founded in 2012. So, our mission with Looms for Lupus is to provide advocacy, awareness, and support for those living with lupus and overlapping conditions like fibromyalgia and mental health. But we not only support those individuals living with these conditions, we also support their loved ones and caregivers. We provide bilingual programs, workshops, and tools not only to educate them and raise that awareness, but also to empower them, to empower those individuals to take charge of their life despite what they're going through, right? We want to continue to live. We want to continue to take care of ourselves and just look out for, to have a better healthcare outcomes, really. And so we collaborate with so many amazing organizations with everything that we do, community partners, patient care facilities, government agencies, and industry stakeholders. Anyone really that is working on similar things that we are, which is empowering the community, supporting the community, and ensuring that they have the best healthcare outcomes that they deserve. With that being said, we started our journey in 2009. Like I said, Juana almost died of lupus before she got her diagnosis. So she was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. And then a month later on in the month is when she was diagnosed with lupus. And lupus back then, there were no FDA approved treatments for lupus. So it's all borrowed drugs, right? Medications. And she had been struggling with rheumatoid arthritis. I mean, you can't even imagine, like it was horrible to see her getting up in the morning so stiff, not being able to move with her hands, literally clenched like this, and her having to massage her way through them. So we knew that not only was rheumatoid arthritis and lupus impacting her, it was impacting her physically, but also mentally. And it was going to impact her children who were young at that age, her boys. Now she's a grandmother of two boys as well. So, we get to share all of this. So we wanted to include everyone, the husbands, the moms, the sisters, the community, the children, everyone. And we wanted to also foster in that sense of community, but also learning about different methods. What causes a flare? Stress. Stress triggers the flares. How can we alleviate that, but also help our mental state during a diagnosis, a life-changing diagnosis? So we incorporated a lot of psychosomatic different workshops and different ways of learning. So the word looms is from loom knitting. So my sister Juana started loom knitting as a method to kind of alleviate her stress and focus on a mindful project that she was doing to kind of not think about the infusions, and everything she was dealing with. So loom knitting was her way of dealing and helping her throughout the process. My mom crochets in Mexico. So we're originally from Mexico and my mom crochets. And so we included my mom. So my mom would crochet, my sister would loom knit, and we just would get together on the weekends and just talk about what she was going through, how we could support her and learning more about the condition. So we did that in within our organization. So we started doing support groups. We host support groups virtually and in person. So we have a reach all the way to international reach. And so we reach out to community members both in English and in Spanish, provide support groups. And within the support groups, we include different modalities to alleviate the stress and, give tools and tips on how to navigate the journey. So that's what we do. And that's how we
Amazing.
started.
Yeah, and I mean, I really, everything you do is totally up my alley. As my parents would say, "Oh, that's up your alley." I don't know if people say that anymore, but I love support groups, and I think it's just so needed to have bilingual ones as well. I think it's just such an important service. I have people reach out to me and say like, "Do you have any bilingual resources?" And I'm like, "I need to. I don't have any yet," and I'll direct them
You
to
could
people
direct
like
them to us.
you.
Hablamos español. Todo,
Yeah.
todo el grupo es en español. So,
Well,
yes.
and so it's really not a specific. So is it on are your groups on like I know you do some on Facebook, right? Facebook Live. Are other ones are they all on Facebook?
So the support group, so we have the in-person and virtual. So we are physically in Baldwin Park, and
Okay.
from there we connect virtually. So anyone from anywhere can access through Zoom. So the virtual support groups and in-person support groups are at the same time. We just have the
Oh,
camera and
synchronous.
everything synchronous. Yes. So at the
Yeah.
same time, and anyone can join us. They're completely free. We host them every second Saturday of the month. So the English one or bilingual as we call it, it's more like English now, 9:30 a.m. every second Saturday of the month. And it's all on our website. And the Spanish one every second Saturday of the month as well after our English one. And that one is 100% in Spanish, also virtual and in person, completely free. And it's amazing to be able to connect with many people from all over the world. Obviously, no, the treatments are not the same. I do have to say that, because when we have someone from like Peru, Mexico, France, anywhere else in the world, they don't have the same treatments that we do. So it's also a learning experience for all of us to figure out, how we can support one another, knowing that not all of us have the same options, right? So
Yeah.
it's been really, really amazing to be able to support each other through our journeys, no matter where we live.
I love it. And you have so many, in addition to the support groups, which I'm definitely going to be making sure I share those links out to everyone in the show notes. You also have really great educational materials, which I got to see in person at the booth when we could talk about one of these conferences. Different groups
Yes.
have booths, and and it's a really great experience to kind of be able
So
to
I'll share with
tell
you.
me more about those. Yeah.
Yes, so besides the support groups that we do that are completely free, English and Spanish, we do what we call a plática con las hermanas Mata, which is a chat with the Mata sisters. That one is completely in Spanish and it's about chronic conditions, mental health, family, and everything in between, and health awareness. And that's in Spanish, and that we do every second Saturday of the month at 8 a.m., and that's through Facebook Live. So we're on Facebook Live, on YouTube, and we used to be on Twitter Live, but ever since there were changes, we can't do that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
YouTube and Facebook Live every second Saturday of the month. Plática con las hermanas Mata. My sister and I kind of share experiences. We bring, we talk about everything family, everything chronic conditions, everything awareness. Besides that, the what you're talking to about is the live symposium. So we have educational live symposiums, or if you will, like kind of like a short program where you get to learn about different topics. So we'll bring in guests, kind of like what you do in your podcast. We bring them in, but they're live on Facebook and on YouTube, and the recordings stay there. And we invite people to come and share their journeys, share their stories. We also invite professionals to come and share about like clinical trials. What are clinical trials? We invite other professionals to talk about like mental health. I mean, just a variety of things that we know that our community needs to hear about. One of the biggest things right now that we have been doing is trying to figure out what the gaps or the needs are in our communities and provide that. So if someone, needs assistance with financial literacy, it impacts all of us, then let's have an education symposium on financial literacy. So that's what we're doing. So we bring on those educational live symposiums and the recordings on social media.
That's so great. And another thing I loved was that I know you collaborated on is the Living Well with Lupus toolkit, which
Mhm.
I'm kind of obsessed with the idea of like building a toolkit or a toolbox, as a metaphor, because we have so many tools, but it's overwhelming, right? To sift through
Yes.
them.
And that's one of the things that you saw in our booth at the Lupus booth is so like I said, we collaborate with other like-minded organizations, big and small, and at the grassroots level, at the federal level. And one of the things that we did is we connected with the Society for Women's Health Research. And they're a big organization that's working on research for women or including women in research and advocating There was a huge movement that they did. But what we did a few years ago is they reached out to Juana, who lives with lupus, and myself as a caregiver, care partner. And they also included another patient perspective, Ayana Duki. She lives with lupus. She's a comedian, amazing girl. And so bringing in all of the researchers and rheumatologists, a group of professionals, and the patient perspective. So all of us included the first toolkit ever. It's only in English and it's completely free for everyone. And what I did is I told them, I know we don't have funds to print these out, but give me one. I'll take it to the booth at the American College of Rheumatology, conference. Well, not the American, the rheumatology conference
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
everyone from all over the world come. I will have it in my booth and I had the QR code and now it's shared with everyone. There are no funds to do a Spanish toolkit, but I am working on getting one hopefully
Mhm.
done. And so I'm pitching the idea. So look for that in a few, either at the end of the year or beginning of next year.
That's amazing. I mean, and as somebody who's also kind of multi-passionate and living with chronic illness, I'm curious. Again, I didn't prepare you for this question, so feel free to be like, I'm not sure.
Mhm.
But I I sometimes struggle to like find a balance in my life when I'm like, okay, I made this thing called arthritis life. Like arthritis is my life, quote unquote. But like also I need to have balance in my life and have time where I'm not just thinking about arthritis all the time because otherwise it can be a little stressful. How do you manage that? Do you know what I mean? Or just take care of
Yes, no,
yourself?
I completely understand what you're talking about because so my sister and I run the nonprofit. So Juana is a social worker by trade. So she supervises social workers. So that
Mhm.
takes her mind off the nonprofit and lupus and RA and everything in between and the mental health aspect of it. Everything we live two lives, as I tell her. So she works for the Department of Children's Services. So she's reunifying children, if you will. And so that helps her. I also work in healthcare IT. So I work helping and working with providers and patients. So for me, that's my little escape from the reality of all these challenging things that we go through. So that helps us. And also what we do is we spend a lot of time with our family, very, active with our family. We get together every weekend. We have a very big family where there's about 40 to 50 of us. And so that's how we keep our mind off. And we're very active in our community as well. And so that's how we kind of just keep, you know, pushing through everything that we're dealing with on a daily basis.
I have to comment because it is so funny to me that there's a stigma or a misconception that people with chronic illness are quote unquote lazy because like everyone, and maybe it's a self-selected population, but everyone I interact with is like where you're literally like, how do I find a balance? It's not like taking a bubble bath or relaxing. You're like, oh, my other job is
That is so true, but we do take time for ourselves. So I'll tell
you do.
you,
And you did say family too.
but it's so true because that is what a lot of people tell me. They're like, "Can you stop? Like, do you ever take time to stop?" And I actually do. So I will tell you, I am not a yoga person. Do not I talk a lot and you could tell, right? So don't put me to do yoga and be quiet because I'm going to cramp, not
Mhm.
stay still, and I'm gonna want to talk or laugh if you tell me to be quiet. So yoga didn't work for me. I'll just what worked for me. And this is what helped with there's a lot of ways to ease your mind and to help you kind of feel centered. And for me, I don't knit, so no knitting for me. I occasionally paint, so I like to paint, I like to journal and write. And so mindfulness has been my go-to. I like to go outside and smell the roses. Like when I tell you smell, don't make me plant. I will not garden. But if you garden and water the flowers, like I tell my husband, I go outside and I enjoy that. I like to use, what we call atención plena, mindfulness. So ground myself barefoot. I love to be barefoot on the grass, love to feel the dirt. I love to smell the roses. I like to feel all the feelings. So the wind, my hair, the sun, which I can't get too much sun.
Me there.
That's another thing. Like I get like it flares me. I
Me too.
don't understand why everyone keeps saying, go get some sun because of your vitamin D deficiency. I'm vitamin D deficient. So I take about 50,000 units a week. And so, no, I cannot get under the sun as much as I wish I could. So I have to be careful. But I love being outside. I love spending time smelling the flowers, if you will. So that's my way of taking, a little bit of self-love, self-care. I love doing my makeup, love doing my hair. So that's a way for me to make me feel better and make me feel alive and not focusing on me feeling ill or having the pain. And that's the same with my sister. She, though, I will say, is a lot better than I am. She does a lot of like specific, anti-inflammatory diets. She tries a lot of like natural ways of healing her body. She does a lot of sauna. She does the ice, the ice, what is it, ice baths and the light
Yeah.
therapy. She tries a lot of that. And so we both have a very different way of taking time for ourselves. But most of the time where we get most relief is doing the things that we love.
I think that is crucial. And I wouldn't say she's better or you're worse. You're both doing what feels right to you and trying to live life on your terms, and I think that that's beautiful. I think journaling, painting, writing, spending time with family. I love that one of your hobbies is, I wrote this down as a hobby, but activities that involve talking. But that's totally me too. I once made a joke to my therapist that I had gone on a silent retreat for 3 days because I was like, it's so hilarious to think I would ever do that. And he was like, really? I was like, no,
Never. That'd be torture.
and I should try. There's this part of me that feels like I should. Anyways, it's one of those things where you always feel like you should be doing something. Or
If you ever go to one of those, I want to go watch you.
I will explode within like 2 hours. I'm not talking. I
So
will
I
literally
can't do
combust.
yoga. I
Yeah.
can't do yoga.
I can do yoga for some reason, but anyway, yeah, it depends on the type though. Yeah, the slow yoga is harder for me. The faster ones where you're kind of moving and having to, yeah. But there's one of the kind of there's the explicit things we talk about on the podcast, and then there's also these kind of undercurrents of themes that I keep track of in my mind as I'm doing the episodes. And one of them is that I hope people get from listening to multiple stories is there's no one size fit all,
No.
And we can say that all day long, but people have to really hear the specifics of the stories to get it, I think.
Yes, and some days are easier than others, right? So
Mhm.
there are days that are going to be incredibly challenging. So know that there are going to be those days, and then also know that there are other days that it's going to be a lot easier for you to, go through it. So it's literally, there's no book on coping with all these ups and downs that we live with or we go through living with a chronic illness, especially with pain, right? It's an ongoing and never-ending process, and the learning curve never really subsides. Like, you're always learning something better, and you learn from others. So I love that you do support groups, Cheryl. And one of the things that I have to say is support groups are not like, you're in a circle and it's all crying. It's not that. You get to learn from others, living with something that you are living with. So that's very empowering. You get to also teach others without even knowing.
Yeah.
Our first support group, we had someone living with lupus that had been living with lupus for 30 years. All she had to say to us, because it was during our first, like literally was our first support group, is, hi, my name is such and I've been living with lupus for 30 years. And my sister and I grabbed our hands and we literally started crying. She didn't share anything else but that. But that gave us hope. Hope that she was going to continue to live despite living with a condition like lupus.
That is so powerful. And it resonates with one of the first times I ever spoke about rheumatoid arthritis to a public audience was in 2010. I was asked to go to the juvenile arthritis family camp, which is really cool. They do it through the Arthritis Foundation in the Washington State. And they have, like you mentioned earlier, family centered care where it's not just the child with arthritis, it's their siblings and their parents are invited to this camp. And I had all these ideas of all the helpful things I was going to be telling these parents, right? And the feedback I got from, I told them a bunch of stuff about my story. And at the end, they were like, the feedback I got was, wow, it's great to hear that like you have a boyfriend or that you swing dance or that you like, and I'm like sitting there thinking like, well, yeah, of course. But when I thought I was gonna blow your mind with telling you about some great way that I'm coping or whatever. But it's like I get it now that people they want to be able to envision a life for themselves. And it feels like your life's over when you get diagnosed. So hearing sorry, I'm expanding on my story, but I
No,
yeah.
but this is what I love about these conversations.
Yeah.
You went in with an expectation of what it looks like. You wanted to share with them what it looks like living with a condition like RA in your life. And you thought that was going to help them because that would have helped you. And we
Right.
always think about what can I do to make it easier for them when sometimes all someone needs is for you to be there, for you to be there next to them and maybe say the smallest thing. And I think that's the beauty of connection is connecting with others, dealing with something similar than what you're dealing with because you never know how you're filling that void or that emptiness that they're feeling. Because when we get diagnosed with these conditions, the providers are amazing and I love them and I respect them. But they give you this diagnosis and then they send you home
With maybe a pamphlet.
with maybe and not I was not sent with a pamphlet. I was not sent with anything. My sister went into ICU for 7 days. If she was dismissed actually. And so she was sent home and she advocated for herself. And if she would not have advocated for herself, she would have died that night. Her platelets were at 2. So you never know what the individual is going through. And that's why for us, it's so important to advocate for yourself, for your loved one, because you never know how that's going to change the dynamic. So my sister is alive today because of that. And that is why we share her story. And that's why I think your story is powerful too, because sometimes the simplest things of let the doctor know. Let them know what you're
Yes.
feeling. Let them know it's not okay. Let them know that you want options. Let them know that this is not working. Let them know that this is working. Work with people, talk to people. It is all needed, in the support groups, the advocacy work that we do, excuse me, and prioritizing our self-care to being able to continue to do the work that we're doing for us has been essential. Connecting with people like you has been essential. So it is amazing how powerful to connect with someone else is.
100%. And I wonder, yeah, I really wonder in my story about, I've told the story before about my first time speaking about rheumatoid arthritis, but I wonder if I had them already just by saying in 2010, my name's Cheryl. I've had rheumatoid arthritis for 6 years. But that's probably all I had to say, and I'm living a life. I have a job and I'm taking medicine every day, every week. And that's probably all they needed to hear.
Yeah. And look at all the amazing things that you do, right? And I think for us, that was hope. It was not losing
Hope.
that hope
Yes.
of we can still make a difference. We can still continue to live a life, a full life with, many things. So not only are you getting to live, Cheryl, you're getting to help others. You're getting to empower others. You're giving that hope to those newly diagnosed and those that have been diagnosed that there is opportunity to continue to live a life, a full life. And to me, I think that's probably the best gift that we can do. And if we never accomplish anything else but give that hope or have those that are giving up on that hope to, light that fire again and let them know that it's going to be okay. Because that's another thing is you don't know that it's going to be okay when you're given these diagnoses and knowing you have to take medication for the rest of life, knowing that other autoimmune diseases might come your way, knowing that it may impact your daily life, the way you shower, the way you get up in the morning, the way you hug your husband, the way you hug your kids, the impact that it's going to have on your social life and people thinking you are lazy, people not inviting you anymore to their functions, people thinking that you are faking things because you look amazing, you look beautiful, people thinking that, that you're, different than anyone else or because of what you're doing. And, for us, I have to say, that has been really humbling because we have had those bad days. We've had my sister in ICU. I have gone through my own struggles, but at the end of the day, we had a mental health walk. We co-hosted a mental health walk a few weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. And I walked along the side with my sister, with my mom, and with my 5-year-old, and my other two daughters, and my husband, and the community members, and everyone. And it was amazing to see that in 2009, my sister was in ICU. And look at all these years later, we're walking the city and helping others and empowering others.
That's I mean, I knew she was close to death, but I didn't know her platelets. When you said their
They
platelets
were
were
at
2,
two.
that painted such a vivid picture in my head of just how close. And that does I think that learning to advocate when I first heard, like, nonprofits and or educational organizations talk about advocacy, I thought it meant just, like, legislative advocacy, which is huge. Like, I've spoken, in Washington, DC to my, federal representatives and in my state capital and stuff, but advocacy at every single level, like, I I used to just be like, well, these are the authority. Like the doctors, they went to school for 10 years. And I do think we have to find a balance in respecting that authority and not question like every single thing your doctor does. But there are so many instances of people who are dead because they didn't advocate for themselves and everyone that, that they got turned away from the ER or got discharged.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened to my sister.
Mm.
She was diagnosed with anxiety because she said, there's something wrong with me. Look, I have bruising, I have oral sores in my mouth. They look like open wounds. I have petechia on my body. I have my hair loss, my patches. I
So
have all
she had all these
She
physical
had
symptoms that they
all
still said,
the physical symptoms, and they said, "We'll do lab work. Come back tomorrow. Go home." She said, "No." I was on the phone. I was on the portal, and I told her, "Your labs are not there." So I said, "Go ask for stat." She goes in. She asks for stat labs. They're like, "No, no, no. They're routine labs. You'll be here tomorrow." Blah blah blah. So she was diagnosed with anxiety, and I told her,
"Oh,
"Do not leave." So then
good for
they
you."
checked, and within hours, her platelets had went from 8 to 6 or 8,000, 8 to 6 to 2. And when she was diagnosed, it was a shift change of doctors. And the doctor that diagnosed her, when I ran to the emergency room with her, I said, "Could she have lupus?" And he's like, "Who are you? Are you a doctor?" And I said, and back then you didn't hear a lot about lupus, but I had put all her symptoms together, the hair loss, the fatigue, the rashes, the oral sores, the no sores, mouth sores, joint pain, everything together. And I said, this is the only thing she could have. But all I knew was she could die and there was no cure and there was no treatment. So I didn't want to tell her. And so when the doctor confirmed she had lupus, like I said, ICU 7 days. So if she would not have advocated for herself, she would not be alive. And that has been her journey. And she says this, she says, "We are the CEOs of our bodies. We can hire and fire and get as much help as we need to be able to run this ship, right?" And so that's what she does. And so she shares her story to empower others to work together with their providers to, your care team is part of your team. And in
Yeah.
order for you to function, you need to be able to communicate with them, trust them, just like they need to trust you
Yeah.
and everyone in between. So that's
So, so important. I really didn't know that I had to be the CEO of my care team for probably the first 10 years. I kept thinking that someone was out there organizing it all for me. But I
no.
but
And
that was honestly a privilege. That was probably from privilege of having my parents always help me so much with stuff. So, but point being, yeah, sorry. You
no,
made
but I
the point
love that
correctly.
that you
Yeah.
said that. Privilege is another thing, that not everyone has the access to care. My sister was lucky to have access to care. My sister was lucky to advocate for herself. She was lucky that I knew how to navigate the healthcare system. And that is another set of things that, maybe it's for like another podcast. We can
Yeah.
talk about, hone in about all these other factors that play a role in us getting an accurate diagnosis, a prompt diagnosis before it's too late. Right.
Yeah.
So, and everything we have to navigate. But what I do have to say is the advocacy part is yes, we have to self advocate. So, advocate for ourselves, advocate for our loved ones. We have to also learn to share our stories because there are policies in place at the state level and federal level that impact our care. And so,
Yes.
the fact that you, Cheryl, shared about going to DC, we did the same thing. We were like, we need to advocate for care. We need to advocate for these policies to change, for access to care. We need to advocate for more research. And so we've been able to do that. We're very huge advocates. We just actually partnered with Global Healthy Living Foundation in Creaky County.
Oh, love
And
that. That's the parent company of Pricky Joints for those listeners.
yes.
Yeah.
So they created, so we're very big about clinical trials. So, like I said, there were no FDA approved treatments before for lupus. Now there's a few, but clinical trials and participation and learning about clinical trials was another, whammy that everyone has to deal with.
Yeah.
And not everyone gets to learn about, where to get this information. What is a clinical trial? What does it mean? What does it entail? So we're huge advocates of that. And so there's a website that was just designed specifically on clinical trials with lupus that they have, and our faces are on there in our contribution. So we're very excited about that.
Well, I will put that in the show notes. Unfortunately, time wise, I do need to go to the rapid fire questions, but I think we should do a separate episode, maybe a panel on advocacy, because I think it's another one of those themes that's interwoven in multiple episodes, but so important. And when you've given so many words of wisdom that would be helpful for someone newly diagnosed, is there anything else you would want to say, maybe to somebody who's brand new diagnosed with, either lupus or RA or fibromyalgia?
Give yourself grace. It's okay to not be okay every day. And the journey is going to be tough. There's going to be ups and downs, but you don't have to go through it alone. That's what I do want to say. And I have to say, for my little sister who created, helped us, with the organization, she created a slogan for us. And it's called, this is what it says: never give in, never give up, never let go, just keep fighting. And that's what I want everyone to know. It is not the end of it all when we get these diagnoses. So never give in, never give up, never let go, and just keep fighting. And so that slogan is what we have in our t-shirts. And I'm actually going to send you one. I don't know if you'll be unless I can mail it to you, but I want to give you one. We have it's our slogan. And
I love it. I have to be a title of the episode, honestly.
yeah, we can do that. And then the other thing that I always say is, together we are knitting a community of hope, one loop at a time. And the reason we kind of never want to change our name, because people are like, why Loom? Why Looms? Why Looms? Because my sister is alive, and loom knitting is what helped her get through the first phase of it all. And my mom crocheting, and we want to say we want to continue to knit a community of hope, because a community is everyone. A community makes us feel together, and we don't want to ever lose that hope. And that's what we will continue to do. Tejiendo una comunidad de esperanza, knitting a community of hope.
Okay. I'm at like an intermediate level of Spanish, so I knew how I did another word for knitting.
Tejiendo.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And I think it's a great metaphor, a beautiful metaphor, actually. So, do you have a favorite, like, inspirational saying or mantra for difficult days?
It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
It's going to be okay. Oh my gosh, I'm going to get emotional.
Okay. Emotions are okay. That's what
I know it is.
feelings are for feeling, my therapist said.
It is tough sometimes, and one thing that I've learned is, when you get up, you could be achy, you could be your muscles, your joints could be tight, you might not be able to move. as soon as I inhale, I remember I could breathe and I can feel my heartbeat and I know I'm alive. And I am grateful every day. So those are the things that I think about. I open my eyes and I'm alive today. And anything else that comes today, I will be able to get through.
I love that. It's so powerful. Totally different note. Do you have a favorite arthritis gadget or tool in your toolbox?
I have to
Not
say,
all
so
about the life
I
hack.
have to go buy all of the gadgets that you're always talking about.
Got my little loop scissors right here.
I love that. I love the gadgets that you always, come up with. And I love the videos because you're always so happy and sharing. And we shouldn't feel embarrassed to get special gadgets for our daily needs. I will
I
have
truly don't. I don't know why. Everyone's like, how do you become comfortable? I'm like, I have no transformation story. I never thought I should be ashamed in the first place. So I don't know what my parents did right, or if I'm just literally they joke, well, she's never had any shame.
no shame in the game. It's okay.
No
I
shame.
know no shame in the game. I have to say one thing. So for me, growing up in a Mexican household, we squeeze a lot of lemon. So we make a lot of soups, a lot of pozole. So the lime juice. So lime, I love lime and everything in my fruit, in my soups, in everything. So lime is my thing. And
Love
not
life.
being able to squeeze that lime or that lemon you know, has been really difficult. So one of the things that I love is there's a little gadget that, I think originated, I don't even know who created it, but in Mexico they use it and they squeeze the lemon. So I don't have it in front of me right now. I wasn't prepared for that one, but literally just you cut the lemon and then you put it inside and then it squeezes it out. So it helps you kind
Yeah.
of use the palm or have someone else do it for you.
Oh, I can
And it
put a
just
link in one. I grew up using those. My parents didn't have arthritis at the time, or it's like there's a little like a cup on the
yes.
bottom, and then you go like this. You still have to use your wrist.
No,
Oh,
not
you
that
have the one
one.
that actually squeezes it for
That
you.
squeezes it, yeah, so
Okay,
you
that's
just
cool.
literally, like, just hold it and squeeze, and then another thing that I think, is always good is having someone to do it for you.
Oh my god, I'm so glad you said that
It's
because
okay
I
to ask
often
someone
say
to do it
that.
for you.
I say that because it's a really underrated life hack, but like ask for help because I think we
Yeah,
often get stubborn because we're like, the fact that I can't do it on my own makes me want to do it even more. But just we have to get over that.
yeah,
Because
get over it. It's okay to ask for help, and it's okay to not be okay. So I always ask. So if my husband's next to me, if my daughters are next to me, my mom, whoever, and I just ask for help. I'm like, I can't get this,
yeah.
I can't reach this, or there are days where I can't lift my hand. So like today is one of those days. This is probably as much as I could do. And I've been stretching a little, like, and moving. I see you moving. And
Yeah,
I
yeah,
love it. We have to be able to comfort each other and to be able to be okay to, need that extra help. So ask for help.
yeah,
That's the
100%.
best.
Yeah,
Tool.
I had it unrelated to RA. I had a tailbone cyst in 2016 that had to be removed surgically called a pilonidal cyst. And ever since then, I have to kind of shift my position a lot. Otherwise, my tailbone will start hurting. So that's why I'm probably fidgety anyway from ADHD too. So I know a lot of things.
Right? I know we have all these diagnoses. Yeah, no, but I think that those are great tips. I love your videos. I'm gonna go watch some more because I'm gonna be purchasing some more items as days go by. There are days that are okay, but there are days that I need a little more help and assistance. So,
Yeah.
it's what it is.
Well, and I'll put this in the show. I actually don't normally put this in the show notes for whatever reason, but I have a Cheryl's favorite products like part of my
Oh yes, put
website.
it. I remember you actually have like links and stuff to a lot of these amazing gadgets. And I love that because when you're looking for something, you just want to be able to go to one spot and be like, okay, I may need this, and that. So and anything that helps and we will share it as well. But I'm
I
so
just
happy that you had me.
I know, me too. I don't know if you have time for one more, but that's okay if we don't.
You can ask me.
I mean, you've already answered this without being asked directly, but just because I always end on this question, what does it mean to you to live a full life and thrive with rheumatoid arthritis?
Oh my
Hard
gosh.
one, right?
Let me see. That's a hard one. What does it mean to me? Wow. I mean, I could go in so many ways. It just means that living with a condition doesn't define who I am. It is just a part of me. It does not identify me. It is not all of me. I am way more than my diagnosis. And I can give a lot more despite of my diagnosis. And I can do a lot despite of my diagnosis. And I can continue to thrive despite of my diagnosis.
Right. And mic drop. Oh, let me get my Taylor Swift microphone. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just have
You
this on my
see?
desk as inspiration. I actually have it with my little human hand. I mean,
Yeah.
which I've dropped and I broke the thumb off. But anyway, so I have my Taylor Swift mic with those. This is prompting you all to watch the YouTube version of the videos so you can see what I'm holding up here.
Cheryl, I
But
love it. Okay, and this is another thing. Laughter
yes,
and friendships are the best thing. Once you befriend me, you cannot get rid of me. Laughter and the fact that we closed with that mic drop, that
yeah.
shivery mic drop is the best because now we can continue our days and hopefully inspire and empower others watching and learning more about how we continue to thrive despite living with these conditions.
I love it 100%. And it's just, I already loved your energy when I got to meet you in person, but because the conferences are so frantic, because there's so many people coming into the booths in and out, that we never had a chance to just sit down and chat one on one. This has just been so much fun and so meaningful for me to be able to hear your story. And I'm sure to everyone listening as well. So thank you. Thank you so much. I want to move to California now.
Yes. Well, and here's the thing.
Oh,
It's just going to be a teaser because
okay.
there's going to be more of
Yes.
these talks to come
Yeah.
because we can have panel discussions about rheumatoid arthritis, advocacy, et cetera, et cetera. So this is just the beginning, Cheryl, and I am excited for the future.
I'm so excited too. Thank you. I'll see you in Chicago at the upcoming rheumatology conference, and we'll say goodbye just to the listeners for now, but stay tuned for more.